All right. Hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host Keegan. And this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And today is just a little bit of a short episode. I don't want to make too big of one because, well, I don't really have the time. I don't have the mental capacity, and well, I just kind of don't want to. I just want to do a little bit of a tidbit because this is also a test. Right now, I am also live streaming to Podbean, which is the platform that I use for hosting my podcast. So you're watching everything from Riverside, which is like how I do the remote recording sessions and stuff. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's actually really cool. There's a lot of cool features that I haven't got to play with yet because I don't have a lot of people to play with. So if you want to be on the show and you want to test out some of these features, or if you got people that want to be on the show and you got friends that want to be on the show, like they got friends that want so on and so forth, and they want to watch the show, there's a little chat box so we can actually interact with the audience. So you can get your friends in on here, even on Podbean. So if you don't want to watch it, you can just listen and then go over and leave comments. Let me know how silly the jokes are and how much they fall flat. It's okay. I know they do. Anyways, really what I want to talk about is nature. Why? Well, because it's a huge part of, well, everything. And I say it's a huge part of everything because for me in my life, it's always been a huge part of it. I was Boy Scout, right? Ta da. Yeah, I still got that. I don't know how long I've had that, but a long time. So, uh, yeah, I was outside constantly whenever I was growing up. And if it wasn't out camping, it was with friends walking around, exploring the abandoned golf course, which you think we have like explored every inch of that place, but it's actually really big. So, no. But the thing is, I lived in an area that was easily accessible to nature. The Paladaro Canyon wasn't too far away. It was about a 45-minute drive tops. And then uh, second largest canyon in the nation. So it's kind of like there's a lot of nature, and I went there a lot. But the thing with saying that is that because it was easily accessible, because it was around me so much, I took it for granted. And having taken it for granted kind of left me in a weird spot because I didn't know how much I needed it. I didn't realize how much it actually meant to me and how much it helped me. So I like to pick up litter whenever I'm going along again. Thanks, Boy Scouts, and also just how I try to be. So I don't know if that's because of Boy Scouts or Boy Scouts enforced it. Either way. So the thing with it having been so easily accessible, me taking it for granted and all that, is that now I live in the DFW Metroplex, which, as we all know, is big. Like, really big. Like, if you've never been to the DFW Metroplex, it is massive. Like, if you start in the middle of Dallas, you can, or like in between Fort Worth and Dallas, you can drive an hour in pretty much any direction and you'll still be in urban city. And I'm talking like hour, like highway hour, 60, 70 miles an hour, and you'll still be like in city limits. And so there, it's huge, right? But I'm not used to the concrete jungle. I'm used to, say, an actual, well, Amarillo didn't really have a lot of trees, so it wasn't really a jungle. Maybe more like a Sahara or something. I don't know. I mean, take your pick. It's flat, yellow, lots of grass. But I was used to outside. So in the city, it's not so nice outside. I don't know if you know that. There's a lot of people, first of all. Like Amarillo has around 200,000 people, and the DFW Metroplex has about 7.5 million people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people for me. I've gotten strangely used to it, but as you can tell, I obviously don't go outside that often, but that's okay. So I drive enough for work, leave me alone. So I've explored the Metroplex as much as I can with work because my work literally takes me everywhere. So I've seen a lot of the Metroplex. However, what I haven't really seen is the wild aspects of what the DFW Metroplex has to offer. And I say this because after I got married and got our first apartment and everything together, I'm sitting there in our apartment and outside the back window, like literally, I'm looking at a bunch of trees. Like our balcony, like just faces a bunch of trees, and it's really quiet. Like it is an actually really quiet part of the Metroplex, and it's funny because it's not that like far away from everything. So I got curious. I was like, well, why is it so quiet? Like, what is going on? Why is it so pretty right here? Well, there's a lot of trees, so it's green. Which, by the way, everything down here kind of stays green all year long, unless like it super freezes. But, anyways, so I started doing a little bit of digging and stuff, and across the way of the trees, there is the President George Bush Turnpike. So it's a large highway. It's a large toll road, if you will. And so, like at night, yeah, you can hear cars up and down and throughout the day and stuff, sure. But they're really muffled. Like they sound a lot further away than they really are. But it's because there's a whole bunch of trees between us and them. So, nice little insulation, like, but nature. So, with this in mind, it was some of the first actual real good quiet I've been able to get being in the city. I haven't heard any gunshots out here either yet. So uh, my desk is not real wood. So knock on wood. Anyways, the thing with that even is that this bunch of trees, it's actually part or right up the road from a nature preserve. And so there's a whole bunch of land actually between us and a school that's way far away and some other things, but there's a good bit of stuff. So I went exploring one day, and there's actually running water over there. Now it's probably not like fresh stream water, it's probably icky, but it was running water nonetheless. And so I was like, that's really cool. And so I just got curious, and so I started following it and stuff. I didn't find it just yet because I found a giant hill. So obviously there's something beyond that other side of the hill that I didn't get to yet. And in between me and this hill is dried, a giant dried up creek bed. So I was kind of like, where is this water and what is it? Anyways, fast forward about a week, um, I figure out that there's an actual nature trail because Google is awesome. So I just Googled up nature trail, and there is a uh, Dallas County Nature Preserve 10 minutes up the road. I was like, what? 10 minutes up the road? Okay, hang on. So I look it up a little bit more, and it's a 16-mile loop trail system. So it's meant for hiking and mountain biking, and just whatever you want to do, run, uh, kind of lollygag. There's a creek. I saw a lot of people fishing. That was pretty funny. I don't know if that's legal, but they were doing it. So, eh. Some people even so hang on, get this. I'm walking along this trail, right? Yeah. I'm right next to the creek and I look over and there's a little ledge, like a little drop off, and then a ledge that's hanging over the creek. And these guys have a freaking fold out table, right? With a propane, maybe not propane, but a butane burner, like a little stove on top of their fold out table. And I was like, are these guys like catching and flaying and cooking the fish and everything just like right here? Like, okay, like more power to them. I don't know if they can do that, but I saw some other people that made it look like it wasn't catch and release. So I didn't say anything because, I mean, to each their own. And so long as they use most of the fish, I guess. However, I finally shush phone. Anyways, I finally decide to go, right? Um, for my birthday. No, not my birthday. It was just a few weeks ago. the wife and I, we went and we did one big walk trail that she knew of, and it wasn't so much a trail; it was more like a park walk because it was all cement and stuff, so it was like kind of hard on the feet. But it was nice. It was the first time we had done a real walk like that, and this uh, path was covered in trees, at least in some spots, and so that was really pretty. Again, from Amarillo, no trees. I'm this is awesome. I love trees. So after that, I started getting that itch, and we went down to that trail that I had found, that 16-mile one, and we went walking for a little bit. We had no idea where we were going. Always fun, right? Don't do that. Anyways, so we just kind of started going for a little bit. I pulled up the GPS, so I have an idea of where we're at. But we're kind of walking along, and then we just decide, like, let's call it a day for now. We've done a lot, because we did other stuff that day. It wasn't just like, oh, look, a little trail, and now we're done. Anyways, we call it a day. We go home and all that, and I just have this itch. I was like, man, I gotta go hiking. And so while I'm at home, I uh, grabbed my walking stick, put on my hiking boots, got a backpack, put on in some waters, and off I went. I didn't go too terribly far. I think I went about a mile and a half that first time, but I'm just sitting there in awe because it was no cement in these trails. It was all, just run, beaten down, because people actually go out there and make these trails in these areas. And that's just super cool because then people like myself get to live in the city and then be able to have a nature like area not that far. I mean, literally a 10-minute drive. And, but I'm out there and I just start feeling everything is kind of relaxing. I was like, what is going on? And I started to feel like a little funniness in my chest. And I was like, oh, I know this feeling. I remember this feeling all too well whenever I was in rehab. And I was like, I'm getting happy. I'm getting excited. I'm getting giddy. And I was like, I haven't, I was like, but it's coming on pretty strong. And it was a deep one. So I was like, this is like something that I've been missing. And so I'm just walking along. I'm getting the feel for the trees around me, the fields that are out there, and I'm just observing, seeing all these giant spider webs and seeing these little tiny lizards, seeing all these flowers and mushrooms and everything just growing, all these old trees toppled over and stuff, this old giant creek bed that's all dried up at the moment, and a lot of spiders in that. Don't walk in that. That was a bad idea. Anyways, but oh, also, while I was walking, I found a crow feather. So if you don't know, crows are the mascot for retrieving sanity. And well, Liam hasn't really been around that much. Sad story. Where his nest was, uh, there was uh, they're kind of construction. I don't really know exactly what they do, but they have gravel machines and stuff that load up trucks. So there was an old building that had a bunch of trees around it, and they tore it down, and that's where Liam's nest was. So Liam kind of said, "Screw y'all! I'm going to find me a new nest, or build me a new nest, find a new spot for a new nest." And so he comes by every now and then. I see him, but it's short, brief, and never enough time for me to get my phone out. Sadly, so he still comes around here and there, but nonetheless, he is the mascot for retrieving sanity. So, anyways, I find a crow feather, and I was already kind of like, I feel like this is a good sign. And so me and crows have a thing. If you know, you know. And trust me, they're way smart. Anyways, we are getting close to what I wanted to cut time at, but I didn't really get to the point. I mean, I kind of have, but I haven't. But I have at the same time. So, really, what I'm trying to say is that there was something missing in my recovery that I didn't know about until then. Um, I can do without the bug bites, but that's just part of walking in tall grass. with mosquitoes around and stuff. Thankfully, mosquitoes don't like me too much, though. I was kind of spared. It could have been a whole lot worse. So, needless to say, I went out there again by myself. This time, remember how I said I did about a mile, mile and a half that first time? Well, that's because there are some shortcuts, so you can take a left. Because whenever you're on these trails, if you're going to go out there and do this kind of thing, if you're going to be hiking on mountain bike trails, you usually need to be going in the opposite direction that the bikes are going to be following, because that way they don't come up behind you, scare the crap out of you. You jump into them, they hit you or whatever, and just cause everyone a bunch of pain and suffering. So to avoid it, you cross each other so they can see you coming, and vice versa. So you can hopefully not do that weird little awkward hallway thing, where you go like to the left and they go to the right. So you go to the right, they go to the left, and do that weird little dance, and then you just kind of are like, should should we two step now? And then you eventually just like awkwardly go, all right, I'm going to choose this wall and stick to it and go away. But the thing with that is those little shortcuts um, go left, right? So I was going right. So this next time I was out, I said, I'm not going to take a left turn this time, which means I'm not going to take a shortcut. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I was determined to not take a left. I eventually had to, but that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is while I was out there, I just kept getting these weird little, some people call them messages, some people call them downloads, some people call them inclinations, some people call them intuition. It can be whatever you want to name it. I'm just going to call it a feeling. But I got a feeling that I was doing the right thing. And whenever I kind of got that feeling again, I found two more feathers. The second one was from what I believe to be a red cardinal. I don't know. It's small, is red, so it's kind of weird. But to continue with the comedy portion, I'm going along. I'm doing fine. Come across one shortcut. I was like, I already know where that one goes. Can't go there. It finishes that first part of the loop. Sorry. Yeah. Excuse me. But I keep going. Then I get to the second shortcut. I was like, I also know where that goes. It finishes that first part of the loop. So I'm going, and then I get to the spot where I hadn't been yet. So a literal fork in a loop. It's kind of weird, right? But I go to the right. So I keep going, and I'm enjoying myself, right? And the first little feeling was that you should have done this a long time ago. And I was like, hmm. I thought to myself, I kind of did, didn't I? And then I remembered I had went to the Renaissance Fair a few months ago, and that's whenever it started kicking back in. And I had even said that to myself, is that this is probably what's going to get my nature bug going again, because I hadn't camped outside for a few years because active addiction, and well, sorry, a lot of people camp out in active addiction. That's not really a reason. It was a reason I didn't have money to go do stuff. That was for sure. But the thing was, is I didn't do something that was fundamental to me growing up, and I didn't realize it. But that peace and that quiet and being surrounded by nature, just being a part of nature, really made it just kind of all hit home. I don't know what it was, but something in my soul, something in my spirit said, "You're doing the right thing. You should have done this a while ago. Keep going." And so I kept going. My original plan was to be out there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours tops, and be back at the car. Like spend 30, 45 minutes going that way, 30, 45 minutes coming back. But I was determined, as I had said before. So I kept going to the right, and I get to a highway. I was like, what is going on? Where am I? How far have I gone? I look at the GPS. I was like, oh, I'm off. And I was like, well, I can't take a left. So I went under the highway. and kept going. And then I got to an actual street and I was like, I can't take a left. So I went to the right. Turns out that the trail keeps going just at the other end of the street, which was about 200 yards to the right or something. I don't, it was a ways, but I was like, what is going on? I looked at the GPS again. I was like, I'm way further. I was like, I either this thing keeps going for as far as I think it goes, or it doesn't. And the GPS isn't showing trails. Well, after I got home, I looked up. There are definitely trails that go out that far, and I think further. But I digress. So I finally said, you know what? I'm going to turn around. So I turned around and I kept trying to take rights to get out, right? No pun. And I kept hitting dead ends. So I was like, okay, I'm going to backtrack and find that fork again where I can go to the right and continue onward. And so I did. And then that's whenever I get to the creek. And it was really weird because I don't know if you've been around like natural creeks and stuff like that are actually full, but they're not like uh, white water level, or like super fast or steady. This one was like a sleepy stream. It was weird because like there were leaves on it, but they were just like, oh, so going. But it was weird because like you could actually see the current because some leaves would go like way faster for a little bit and spin around. Anyways, but that's also kind of whenever I got another little feeling, and I was like, ooh, someone's trying to speak to me. And I was like, oh, so I was listening again, right? And that's whenever I was like, hmm, I need to do this often. I need to do this at least once a week. At least. I might do it twice. But there was something that said, I've been waiting. And that was a part of me that I hadn't heard in a while. And I didn't know that I had been waiting. For what? I'm still not entirely sure. But the thing is that I'm willing to figure it out. However, I do know that nature was the key to that. Um, I do know that it brought me back to a point in my life where I was more, I'd say, at peace. I wasn't quite broken. Or maybe it was also during the time I received or inflicted most of the pain onto myself, you know? Because believe it or not, bad feelings are addictive. Who knew? So the thing with it is that I went back in time and I heard a version of me I hadn't heard in a while, and I felt young again. Like I know, right? Like weird little kind of. But you ever like just be in your body and you're like, I'm 32 years old, and then sometimes you're like, damn, I'm 32 years old. This sucks. And then sometimes you're like, I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just don't feel your age. And I was feeling that way. I was like, this is weird. And then I had that little tape kind of play in my head that was like, yeah, I kind of remember some of those memories that went through. And a lot of them I processed while I was out in nature. I was like, oh, yeah, that's what it was. Or is at least a part of it. They have done studies that show nature and being around in nature actually elevates your mood. It actually supports good health. Like, so long as you don't do it in Australia, you should be fine going outside. You should probably do it more often. I should probably do it more often. Who am I kidding? You do whatever you want to do. I need to go outside more often. But there's something in nature that soothes me. I don't know what it is. Is it the silence? Is it because there's no one around? Is it because I'm not judged while I'm existing in nature? Is it because I can vibe with nature? Is it because I can appreciate all the bugs, all the plants, all the birds, all the other weird animals that come up like skunks? I don't know. However, what I do know is that I found a key to my sobriety, a key to my recovery. And I have to run with it. I have to walk with it. I have to be careful with it. But I have to use it too. And that's the thing. A tool is not going to do anything if it just sits on a shelf or on a hook. A tool has to be used. So I need to use what nature has given me. Nature, right? Like, and that's also a cool thing. Find a trail that you don't have to pay for because I've heard of that, and that I was like, that that don't sound right. Like maybe if you're going into a state park or something, sure, yeah, that's okay. Like parks like that, okay. But if you're going to like a city park or something, no. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe there are private trails and stuff out there that I've just heard about and I wasn't getting clarification on what kind of trail they were talking about. Anyways, I have to do something with this knowledge. And I've already started to utilize it because I've been out there so many times. I've been called to do it. I just have this urge to go do it. And ever since I've been back from it, I feel a weird little drive inside of me. I feel the flame for the podcast reignited. I feel my concentration coming back better. Well, kind of, sort of. You know what I mean? You probably don't. You're not inside my head. I mean, you might almost well be because you are listening to most of the thoughts that are coming from my head. Not all of them, but a good portion of them. However, yeah, I just want to say that for me, nature is paramount for my recovery now. It's paramount for my well being, and I didn't know it. So, if I'm not changing with my recovery, if my recovery isn't growing and doing something new in some way, shape, or form throughout the years while I'm in recovery, then it's going to grow stagnant. And that's where I'm going to fall backwards. So I really have to be able to sit there and accept new things that come into my life, especially if they're going to help me in my recovery. Even if it means I have to sacrifice time to go out there. 10-minute drive. Okay, that's not bad at all. Be out there for 30 minutes. Another 10-minute drive back. I've spent an hour less than and getting a nice little refresh, a nice little shake off, you know. But I haven't done that before. So why was that? It's because I didn't know, but I also listened to kind of what I was feeling, what something was telling me, but I didn't know what. So it's okay to explore those feelings that you don't know what exactly is going on. It's okay to ask questions. So I just want to leave with saying if you've got weird little feelings and nudges and callings to go do stuff, even if it's a little weird or like it piqued your interest a long time ago and it does again all of a sudden, and just something is catching your attention, maybe you should listen. Maybe you should act on it. I bet you it would actually turn out to be pretty good, so long as you're willing to be receptive. If you're receptive to the message, you're receptive to what is giving you that feel and what that uh, reciprocates to you whenever you do that activity or whatever it is, then if it's good, then go with it, run with it. I hope you do because you never know where it'll go, just like anything else. So, with this, I'm going to leave it here, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. See you next time. Schlan.